So people will ask me like, Kara, why is your business successful? And I'm like, it's no mystery. I'm literally just asking people for help. And then when I know how to do things effectively, I'm happy to answer those phone calls from my colleagues. Supporting each other, I think, is the way that we make this whole industry better.
Welcome to Learning from Experience, a podcast for college students and recent grads who want to hear directly from alumni and how they've adjusted their lives post-graduation, including personal stories of success, career readiness, and tips for navigating the real world. I'm your host, Megan Finnerty, and today I'm talking with Kara Gasperone. A little bit about our guest. Kara has graduated twice from the college, first with a bachelor's in family and human development from the Sanford School of Social and Family Dynamics in 2009, and then she earned her master's degree in marriage and family therapy in 2010. Today, she has her own practice in the Valley, and she's also an emerging leader here at the college. Thanks so much for joining us. Can you start us off by sharing a little bit more about you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a Phoenix native. I was born and raised actually really close to the ASU West campus. Never wanted to leave, so went to high school here, went to ASU twice, couldn't get enough of it, had to go back again, and just planted my roots here in the central area. So in addition to being a licensed therapist in the state of Arizona, I also pursued additional certification, and I'm a board certified clinical supervisor, which means I can oversee other supervisees in the process of obtaining their license, and I can also supervise therapists who are starting their own practices or therapists who have had disciplinary action.
How did you decide to become a therapist?
You'll probably hear a lot of therapists talk about getting into this field because they had mental health treatment themselves or had hardships themselves. That's a pretty common story. Mine's a little off the beaten path. Really, as a kid, growing up in a pretty standard middle class family here, I was just super interested in other families. I really liked shows on TLC and MTV, like MTV True Life. I loved intervention. I always was really interested in mental health in general, what other people were doing. Anything that was different from my sort of standard middle class upbringing, I was really intrigued by. And so when it was time for me to pick a major in college, I was like, let's see, is there something sociology related, something psychology related? And when I got my undergrad degree, I was like, this is it.
When you were here at the college, did you have any opportunities or experiences that started to solidify you in this career path?
First, I'll talk about the CDL, Child Development Lab. When I was a freshman or a sophomore, maybe, I took a class there as part of my major, probably, a semester-long class in the CDL. My job was to just observe what the kids were up to, observe the interactions that the teachers were facilitating between kids. And I was really pleasantly surprised to see that it was a very emotionally focused environment where these little kids were resolving arguments with each other by being you hurt my feelings for this reason, and this is why I feel this way about it, and I would appreciate an apology. And then the other kid would be I'm so sorry that I hurt your feelings. And I was this is unbelievable to me as an 18 or 19-year-old, seeing these little children act with more emotional intelligence than a lot of my peers or myself. So I think the CDL was really, really interesting. I did end up actually working with little kids for more than a decade after I got my master's degree in a nonprofit organization. So that really planted seeds, working at the CDL, learning at the CDL, and understanding the very kind of significant importance of early childhood development and what kids learn from adults and how adults impact kids without knowing it. So that was a big piece of my interest in furthering my career.
Throughout your career, you've made some transitions. Can you talk about your career path and how you landed at creating New Sun Counseling?
Yeah, it's fun to talk about my career. During my internship in graduate school, we had to do a year-long practicum to get our internship hours. At the time in the program, we were placed at an internship site, and my professors placed me at an internship site that was literally just a couple blocks from my house for convenience purposes for me. It just so happened to be that it was a children's nonprofit behavioral health agency. And then they offered me, I begged for a job there when I graduated, and I got one. I loved my clinical director. I loved my colleagues. It was a really, really good, but really, really difficult experience. I worked there eventually for 10 plus years. I became a full-time therapist. I eventually became a clinical supervisor and then a site director. And when I hit the expiration date of working with kids, I moved to another nonprofit to work with adults who were dealing with addiction issues, substance use and addiction issues. I worked there for 3 years. That was also a really, really wonderful experience. We also had like detox and rehab programming. So I got the outpatient behavioral health and psychiatry piece of it, but I also got to see like crisis detox, like some of the more immediate treatment, which was really interesting and good. And then I was like, maybe I can join a practice and start my own practice. And COVID, like I'm sure with many other stories that you hear, sort of like thrust me into it. I was like, okay, well, it's do or die, and leapt into my own practice. And I've been very grateful that it's been consistent, successful, super duper enjoyable. And I still get to provide some clinical supervision. Really enjoy seeing clients, particularly in private practice, because differently sometimes than nonprofit, they're like making a conscious choice and effort to come work on stuff without some external factors sort of pushing them towards therapy. So all chapters very enjoyable, but this one I get to have a little bit more control of my life and day-to-day, which is a gift.
Has launching your own business been what you thought it would be? And are there different pressures when it's something that's your own versus working for someone else?
Yeah, dude. Yes, like it's wild. The imposter syndrome is so real. I've listened to a lot of other episodes of your podcast and a lot of other guests talking about like how strange it is to be an expert in your field and feel like you literally just graduated. I have that experience all the time. I have the special and unique privilege of coming from a family of small business owners. So my grandfather was an electrical engineer. He had his own business. My mom worked there as the finance manager for a long time. My dad eventually started his own vending machine business. My mom was also the finance manager of that business. So I had some family context to see what running a small business looked like. And I had a lot of support and encouragement from my family to do it. Plus a lot of peers and colleagues that had already done it that I asked 9 million questions all day, every day. I still do. So I think starting a small business is terrifying. I knew how to be a good therapist, I think, but I didn't know how I would enjoy income and expense spreadsheets and marketing and doing all your own billing and I'm a one-man band. I'm the person behind all of the Instagram posts and the emails and the administrative stuff. And plus there's an added pressure. So I employ my partner full-time. So having the responsibility of not only my own finances, but also somebody's income and livelihood, it's a lot of responsibility. So I care a lot about being a good therapist first and foremost. Now, in addition to caring a lot about being good at doing therapy, I have to be good at running a business, paying somebody on time, making sure they have a steady stream of clients, making sure I answer administrative emails in a timely fashion. So it's hard. It's mostly terrifying.
You just mentioned marketing, and I know that's a part of small business ownership that you have to promote yourself. And I think about, therapists sharing knowledge on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. Do you feel like becoming a content creator is now necessary in the business model?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Something I think about a lot because I have a lot of really amazing colleagues and professors who carved a very specific path of what it looks like to be a private practice owner. So some of my professors opened clinics, training clinics, really successful with lots and lots of levels of staff. I've had some colleagues and professors start the YouTube channel, social media, making a lot of reels, putting content out there, starting podcasts. So I've seen a lot of my peers and colleagues and professors do kind of a pretty traditional trajectory of open a practice, build a practice, create additional locations, partner with psychiatrists, put a bunch of content online. And to be quite honest with you, I am not a great content creator. I think maybe it's just that it's not the most exciting part of my workday. And so when I have done all the other exciting parts of my workday, there's nothing left to do that. I don't know that I have a unique voice in that area either. I think a lot of other people do it really, really, really well. And I think what I've allowed myself to focus on is being authentic to myself as a therapist and creating a niche for clients that want to see therapists like me. I have tattoos. I wear concert t-shirts. My partner is heavily tattooed. He rides a Harley. He has really long hair and a big beard. I'm more interested now, I think, in creating accessible therapy that feels comfortable for people to reach out to, I think there's a lot of pressure to wear the suit and expand your practice, and like people are doing that so well. I'm not great at that. Like, I'm gonna show up to work in Doc Martens and like say curse words in therapy sessions, and there's a lot of other therapists that are doing that well too, but like I have enjoyed carving my own path in that department and like creating a new little branch of therapy that feels more authentic to who I am and who my partner is. And I think we've had a really good response from clients about that.
So what advice would you have for students who want to have a practice one day or a small business, but already feel some pressure like they should do it all?
Take time to like try everything and find out what you're good at. Like, be like your mentors, be like your colleagues, like try to emulate other people and see if like that feels good to you. Absorb information and experiences from other people. I spent a long time doing that. I've had a lot of really great mentors that have put me in a place where I feel comfortable being like whatever weird little version of myself. So I think students should absorb, like learn from everybody, emulate everybody, see what feels like it's a good fit, and like give yourself time to hone that. And it's also wonderful to learn from people outside of the field and like in other careers. So, you know, spending time with people that are not necessarily in your bubble, I think is helpful in creating like a real true to yourself brand.
In what ways do you think your education at ASU has prepared you for your career?
There was so much at my experience at ASU that really prepared me to do well at this. Like so much. My education was wonderful, undergrad and grad school. I had really incredible professors who like really invested time and effort in me and reciprocated my interest in the industry. The hard learning curve was figuring out how to transition this into business. And I don't think it's a fault of any of the programming, but like I didn't learn about small business stuff. I didn't learn about taking insurance. I didn't learn about, like deliverables, so I think in many ways my education really did prepare me successfully to do good work as a therapist. And I've learned a lot of real life kind of world skills from just working at various different companies, seeing how people run businesses successfully and less successfully, and like learning from my own and others' mistakes. Like I don't even know that you can learn that in school. I'm grateful that I had the clinical chops from school, and also grateful that I got to learn the real life stuff in the real world.
Looking back over your career so far, what's one thing that you've learned from experience?
Yeah, it's gonna sound so cliche, and maybe it is, but like be yourself. If you have a funny sense of humor, have a funny sense of humor. If you're sarcastic, be sarcastic. If you are very serious, be serious. Like I think that people who try really hard to just exactly be the way that they think they are supposed to, you end up being, not true to who you are. And authenticity, especially as a therapist, is like, I would say, the most important piece of this work. The therapeutic relationship is more important than your training, the letters behind your name. Like your ability to make somebody feel comfortable is a very big deal. So being yourself and finding mentors that encourage you to be yourself, I think is what has been really helpful for me.
Lastly, what do you think has made you successful?
The success of my business, I think, has been two things. One, authenticity, being myself, allowing myself to wear, speak, dress, navigate this world as my own human self. But also, like, I have asked so much, so constantly for help. If there's something I don't know how to do, which is a lot of things, I have either hired professionals to help me. So I have a great financial advisor team and I have a great CPA because I was also really terrified that I would like screw up my taxes and the IRS would come for me and shut my business down and take my house and remove my social security number or something. But so I have hired professionals to help, and I have asked so many people so many questions. I didn't know anything about billing insurance, but my partner takes Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I have called my Blue Cross Blue Shield provider liaison 8,000 times. I have asked what I think are probably silly or stupid questions. I think that there's no shame in just not knowing how to do something or making a mistake at something and asking somebody to help you fix it. I have made billing errors where I've had to call clients and be like, I'm truly so sorry. I did this wrong. I screwed up your payment. I have taken accountability for things like that. That can be embarrassing, but I think just letting people help you and finding people who know more than you and taking them out to lunch, like picking people's brains has been, I think, a huge piece of my success. Because like, I can't do everything. I don't know everything. I need somebody to tell me how to do that.
Kara, thanks so much for joining us today. And for those listening, if you want to connect with Kara to learn more about her experience or ask her any questions, she said her inbox is always open. And a great way to connect with her is also finding her through her website, which is NEWSUN, so NEWSUN counseling.com. To hear more alumni advice, head to our episode page wherever you listen to podcasts. You can check out the college's YouTube channel or visit thecollege.asu.edu/LFE podcast. See you next time.